build was the normal grade stuff, carve, then dry lock, mixed with acrylic paint. People probably like to see that, but I get bored of filming it because everybody's foam and carve, it looks the same, you know? So technical considerations. It's not the easiest to maintain an aquarium that's only top access. Most people use front access. The problem with front access is there's some kind of lines in the front from the doors. With this tank, the front is very clean. I used the Aquarium glass top. And so all my access is through here. I gotta squeeze my hand in, which makes it a little bit tricky, but it's been doable. One thing you have to keep in mind when building one of these and putting it on a rack is you need to leave space. I decided this was the minimum space I need because there's another tank above it. Most people pack in tanks super tight, like no space at all. That only works for front opening tanks. So if you're doing a top opening tank, definitely leave a little room, maybe even a little more than you think. The other reason besides looks that I chose this tank is because aquariums are cheap, especially if you go to the $1 a gallon sale. This tank was $20. The top was $18. I used pretty much all plants that I had. These were all pieces that I grabbed from other tanks. So overall, this is a very cheap build. Once all the froglets come out of the water, I'm going to move them into their permanent home, which is a 20-gallon high, which is still growing in, but should be ready for them by the time they're all hopping. I had some Azurius tadpoles, so I decided to drop them in there. That's a good place to raise them. You can see this little guy right here, taking his first steps on dry land. It's pretty exciting. There's still a few of his siblings. Hard to see, but they're still in the water. Their front legs aren't really going, so it's going to take a little while. The dwarf baby tears is growing in nicely. Got it going on the land and in the water. And I think eventually they'll meet. I'm going to redo this kind of pond section a little bit once all the frogs are out. The tadpoles are out. I haven't wanted to mess around in there since they're doing the little froggy things. This tank is going to be for some Aratus once these guys come out, and they'll go in their own tank. There's a hide I built with cork bark right here in the middle, but then there's also a hide underneath the waterfall, which is getting overgrown, but that should be nice and secluded for them. when I took the tadpoles out of deli cups and put them into this with the moving water, they were much more active. In the deli cups, they pretty much just sit around all day. But when there's moving water, they get very vigorous. One of the frogs from the first clutch came out, I don't know, a week or two ago, and he is pretty stinking teeny. But that's him hiding right there. Hopefully you can see that little guy. This tank has been growing in for, about 3 months now, and I'm pretty happy with it. So about the water feature, the pump is under this rock right here, and it's sandwiched in between layers of filter mat, which is probably not able to see because it's black. I'm trying to get the dwarf baby tears to grow over it. I fooled with the water feature quite a lot before planting, and the water was getting very dirty, and before I sandwiched it in between the layers of filter mat, it was just getting gross within a week, right? So after I did that, the water is nice and clean, and I don't do any water changes. So filter mat, very good. Pump sandwiched in between. So the pump goes through there. The wire comes out the top of that. The tube goes through the background and then out the left side, and it creates a continuous water flow. So it comes pump, tube, out. You know, that helps keep the water circulating. You don't want stagnant water. Stagnant water also makes it messy. You can probably see I've got this rock here blocking off where the water comes out, just for visuals. So see, you can see that little. I think it's working pretty well. Water features are definitely not easy, and I've struggled with them. Really, it just takes practice. Some people can do it, no problem, but I've had trouble. This tank seems like it's been a pretty good system for raising the tadpole to dart frog in a pretty naturalistic way. Certainly more naturalistic than deli cups. I've noticed that when frogs, this is the guy who came out of the water yesterday, they like to hop back in and out for security. This first guy, he was in and out of the water maybe for a week. He used to like to hide under here. There's a little crevice under here. He'd just hide right there. Which I think, more power to him, whatever makes him feel comfortable. But now, the first guy who was out of the water, I've never seen him go back in. Also, another thing to think about is you want to make ease. Another thing to think about is you want to make it easy for them to get back out of the water. So everything is pretty slanted. They can hop back out. They can go in and out pretty easily. You don't want any place where they can get stuck. And the water is also very shallow. Eventually, This dwarf baby tears is going to cover up most of this, so it'll be even more shallow, with the only deep spot being over here. Deep being about an inch.